Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back in Minnesota. You know, yesterday I brought up the question that was asked to me during the live stream: is Maine or Minnesota better and why? So today we're showing off the Minnesota. Yesterday we did the Maine, but we're using the same commander. I don't normally run Azure Lane, New Jersey on my Minnesota, but I thought, why not try to use the same commander for both ships so you guys can see kind of the differences between the two. But yeah. Anyway, we're running Azure Lane, New Jersey, Arthas the Cold as an inspiration, Colorado as our secondary, Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, On Second Thought, Don't You Just Love It, and Fight Fire with Fire. Main Battery Mod 2 instead of AA. You could go AA there, but I like to try to get these turrets to traverse quicker. And then we've got Steering Gears Mod 2, Concealment System Module, and you've got Artillery Plotting Room Mod 2. And again, this is the epic version, so for every 30,000 damage, we get a little bit more accurate. Alright. So, one of the things I wanted to do today is kind of show the stats of the two ships for the way I've played them. And you can see that I have a 70% win rate in Minnesota. It's just a bigger Kansas. There's not a whole lot there. This does have the Mark 7 turrets, supposedly, so you at least got that going for you. But overall, it's a solid ship. 108,000 average damage. The game that you're actually going to see is going to be my highest damage game so far in the Minnesota. I don't play it a lot. Same thing for the Maine. As you can see, 70% win rate, about the same amount of games played. Slightly lower damage to the Minnesota. As you'd expect, Minnesota has extra guns. It's only 2 extra guns, but it is 2 extra guns. So a little bit higher average damage on that. But I've had better games in the Maine because of its survivability and its ability to get around the map a little bit easier. So that's the big deciding factor for me between the two. But with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into the gameplay so that you guys can see what the Minnesota all about. Alrighty, so we are going to be on Loop, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm not a big fan of this map for battleships. Most of the time, this just ends up in a mess. It's kind of like they saw the kind of annoyances that we had with Scandinavia, and they're like, you know what? What's another map that we really, really dislike in the community? Oh, Atlantic. Oh, yes, let's make this map like Atlantic. Just obnoxious. I don't like this map. It's good for destroyers, but for everybody else, not so much. That being said, we're about to have our best match ever in the Minnesota. So, maybe I'm a liar. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, as we go to push forward on this right flank, you're going to notice a couple things. First of all, I've got to mute a guy, because if there's one thing I can't stand, it's somebody who doesn't understand that their mic is active and that they can mute themselves. Like, if you got something going on in the background, mute yourself. If you arguing with your spouse, if your baby crying, mute yourself. If you got the freaking game on, the speakers coming through your TV, mute yourself. Nobody wants to hear your guns going off, right? Anyway, that all being said, we're going to push over to the right. Now, all I have over here is a Dalian. All right, now, that doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence for winning this side if I'm too bold. But this match is also going to be one of those where the Minnesota puts more miles on him on this ship than should be given in a 15-minute window. we gonna be moving around the map in this one. But as we push towards the right flank initially, I like to try to seal the flanks, and I've talked about this many times. Win your side first, then go wherever you want to go. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just let their flank collapse, and then they're surrounded on 3 sides, and they wonder why suddenly their team collapses. And I've tried to instill this in everybody that watches the channel. If you at least try to hold your side if you can't outright win it for as long as possible, because you give your team a chance, right? If you just collapse or if you run away from your spawn immediately, the enemy is just able to capture that base and then just move straight into crossfire positions on your entire team, and that's bad news, right? But anyway, we've got an Iowa pushing in. We're going to go ahead and aim for the Iowa. I wasn't confident in how this was going to go, so I didn't bother using my first catapult fighter here for Arthas. And we do dodge. So we know that the Johann's here, or whatever it is. One of the Dutch cruisers here. I think it's Johann. But we are able to dodge that relatively easily. But, of course, in Wargaming's infinite wisdom, they give them an immediate response. So they're guaranteed to hit you with at least one of these. And so he comes through, hits me a little bit. Not that big a deal. Temeraire, I'm sorry, brother, man. You... Oh, my God. Look at that accuracy, folks. Oh, that's going to hurt. That's going to real hurt. Arthas? Bonk. But, of course, in true Spartan fashion, I got to leave him with just enough to get away. God darn it, man. Why do I have to be cursed? Like, y'all think I joke about this. That should have been a dev strike. That's a full health gone. But no. Nope, not allowed. Leave him with just enough to get away. At least we got to slap the out of him. The man's is toast, right? Like, what is he going to do for the rest of the match? Those are Citadel damage, too. And even though he's a British battleship, he's not going to be able to heal a lot of that back. So, even if he does survive initially, he should be an easy kill. Now, you can see Iowa here is a little bit too close. Can't really get him. Temeraire gets spotted again, and I'm just going to give him the rear turret of justice and truth, just to make sure that he understands that his game's over. And for his sake, he's probably thinking, thank God. You know, I didn't want to play this one anyway. When you lose that much health that early, sometimes you just give up. Not me. I usually keep fighting because I've had some matches where I come back from that and end up with a pretty solid game. Johann, unfortunately, we don't get much out of it. Zieten is pushing into a Tirpitz, a little German on German action coming up. Whose torpedoes will reign supreme? Who knows? Rear turrets, unfortunately, are going to hit the island mostly, so we're not going to get much of anything. A couple of pins on those Zieten. Front guns are ready to go, though, so I was pretty much salivating at this point. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna Citadel this Zieten. But you can see he's wiggling to get his torpedoes away. And whenever that happens, it's just going to throw my shells off a little bit. Only land 2 of the 6 shells that we send at him. Solid result, but again, these guys are literally just charging each other, so it's just a matter of time. They're not long for this world. Tirpitz gets torped, but survives. He's going to be able to get his torpedoes away. I try to get a shot in there to get a little bit extra damage, but between them shooting the guy and then Tirpitz torping him, he's no longer with us. Now, Iowa, on the other hand, is just taking some torps, so we're going to go for the superstructure on him, try to finish him off real quick. And, of course, in true Spartan fashion, you guys know the deal. 6 shells downrange, 2 shells hit the target. How is that possible? Like, this isn't... I know it's not a full accuracy build, but it's not a reload build, you know? You'd think that this thing would have a little bit more consistency, and that's one of the things that I'm not a real fan of. I feel like the guns are a little bit more consistent when it comes to accuracy with the Maine. Minnesota just has 2 extra guns, so it doesn't feel as bad, but you still get some really troll salvos out of this thing. Like if the Maine if the Maine trolls you, the Minnesota will make you want to throw your controller. Like there are times where you pull the trigger and you just watch. It looks like a freaking Jackson Pollock painting. I think it's the guy, where it just splatters everywhere. But anyway, as we've already started pushing back towards the middle of the map, you probably are starting to realize that this game has gotten out of hand for the enemies. And you're right. But I'm going to go ahead and let my teammate know to go into the A-cap. I have no idea why the Dalian used one of his smokes here. But he's going to go into the A-cap. I've already been traversing my way back across the map. This Iowa can't read the room. So he's going to take all day to do whatever he wants to do. I'm trying to get back across the map because if you look at where the remaining enemy ships are, other than the Johann that we know is over there, everybody else is kind of at Charlie. So I want to set up a crossfire. And the last thing anybody expects is somebody to counter-rotate. And we've talked about this a gajillion times on the channel. If everybody on your team is going one way, the easiest way to set up a crossfire is go the other way. Now, you got to be careful in doing that because you can easily find yourself one versus everybody, and that just doesn't end well for anybody. But if you can manage to allow yourself to get into that crossfire position and your team is engaging them, suddenly You are a problem. And that's exactly what we're about to be for this enemy team. We've only had 87,000 damage up to this point. This Johann is begging for it. We're too slow to get across the map. And this is the problem with this ship. This one, the Vermont, the Kansas, they all have the same problem. They're great when fighting everything on its side. As soon as that fight's over, you spend the majority of your time like walking across the map. It's obnoxious. But Johann, I ain't gonna lie, I thought I had him. Apparently he turned out just a little bit, and that saved his life probably, because I was going Arthas on that one. That one looked pretty solid, but only landed one shell out of the entire salvo. Again, I think he turned away a little bit, probably saved his life. But what you're about to see next is that nobody knows I exist, right? There aren't any planes near me because the carrier's over there attacking everybody else, so nobody sees me on the mini-map coming back. And so nobody has any reasonable expectation of a gigantic monstrosity of a slow battleship, as we get a nice shot into the Johann there. Nobody has any expectations of a Minnesota to be where it's going to show up. Nobody. Least of which this Peter Bag, who has no clue that I even exist at this moment. He is actually going to showcase why this is such an important move. Look at this. Look at this. No, he doesn't exist. I don't exist. To him, what's about to happen is the boogeyman. That's the best guess that he can have for what just about occurred here. And he goes broadside and gets clapped for it, as you'd expect out of a Peter Bag. But, of course, in true Spartan fashion. How many is that now in this one? The Temeraire, the Iowa, the Peter Bag. Like, there's at least 3 true Spartan fashions in here. But it's all good. We're going to keep pushing. Now the Peter Bag has a clue that somebody's over here, but the Bismarck doesn't. Bismarck's still completely unaware that I exist. So we're going to go ahead and take a shot, knowing that we're going to get spotted now, because the Peter Bag is right there. So as soon as we fire our guns, Peter Bag gets us spotted. Not surprised. Bismarck does see these coming in just in time, turns a little bit, doesn't matter. We're going to land more shells than not. Actually, I lied. We landed 5 out of 12, so that's less than... My brain's messed up. We landed less shells than we missed. Anyway. Peter Bag, there's not much he can do here. He's too close, and I've got too many guns, and he's pretty much toast. There's just nothing he can do about that. And of course we land 6 shells on him while he's skinny as crap. Can't hit the frickin' Bismarck, but the skinny little cruiser, yeet city. But suddenly we went from 87,000 damage up to 154, and you're like, man, this seemed like a pretty good idea. I know. Now this next shot I'm kind of proud of. You can see the little dip in the island here. I was pretty hopeful that these are all going to get through the island. Unfortunately, they don't all go through the island. Only the rear guns get through the island, but that's still a solid hit, getting 6 rounds on target. Now, maybe a couple of the front guns hit. If not, then we just landed every single shell from the rear 2 turrets. Can't argue with those results, right? But like I said, the biggest downside of this Minnesota is its speed. It just does not do well. It does take a lot of damage too, but you can mitigate a lot of that. People are bad shots mostly, so it'll take a lot of damage, especially more damage than the Maine in certain engagements, but more often than not, you can mitigate most of the damage you're going to take. And just continue to be a problem. And again, anytime you have the Maine or the Minnesota and somebody gives you any sort of broadside, it's yeet city, right? Like, people underestimate a well-played American battleship, because they're so used to battleships just being completely useless most of the time, or being out of position, or not knowing how to aim, or shooting the wrong ammo type, that when you do finally decide to come out and show yourself, as we take a shot at the Bismarck just as he gets behind the island, and we get a little Arthas bonus there, little 19,000 damage Citadel. Love to see that. But they always underestimate American firepower, and I don't know why. There's a reason that we are the world's most powerful Navy, right? Sure, in World War II, we had to earn that title. But we earned it, right? And then we've kept it ever since. But The American Navy in the game, specifically, is some of the most consistent ships that you'll ever see. Are they the best ships at all? No. But they're very consistent. So anytime that you want to try to give a broadside to any of these ships, you better hope that they're not loaded, because it's never going to end well. You know what's coming. It ain't like a Japanese ship where it pulls the trigger and it's a dice roll whether or not it's going to hit you. You know, when you give a broadside to an American battleship, you're pretty much guaranteed to get slapped. May not always citadel you, but it's going to hurt you. But unfortunately for us, this game's pretty much over. We got 194,000 damage. We got 3 kills. We're going to try to move up into the cap over here at Charlie. And I was hoping to get a shot at this guy, but he's just going to be a turd waffle and go dark and reverse behind the island and continue to just be annoying. But, yeah, it's just nothing we can do about it. We're never going to get another shot at him, unfortunately. He's going to hang around the island. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think. What do you think between the Maine and the Minnesota? A lot of people were saying that they don't like the Maine. I don't get that. I really don't. I can understand why some people would say that they like the Minnesota better, because honestly, there are times where the Minnesota, the Kansas, are simply better for the battle, because you got more firepower available. You do the Dreadnought Shuffle. They're more agile than the other Iowa class and Montana and Maine. So they do feel a little bit more usable a lot of times. But honestly, if you've played enough American battleships, you understand that the Iowas, the Maine, the Montana, they may not turn as well as everything else, but by God, when it comes to just getting rid of motherfuckers, they do a pretty good job. I mean, again, you're not going to complain with either of these ships, or at least you shouldn't. Now, somebody did bring up another good point that I didn't think about. You don't need the Maine to get the Montana. You don't. It's not a requirement. There's no like roadblocks on those early bureau projects. But you do need the Minnesota to get to the Vermont, because it is a roadblock for the Vermont. So that might sway your opinion one way or the other. But either way, you're not going to be disappointed with either of these ships. 194,000 damage, top of the leaderboard, 3K base, literally sailed further than just about anybody in this match, and did so in style. So let me know what you guys think, and if you like what I'm doing, punch a like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.